I'll keep an eye on
Cool.
the chat as we go along and keep talking, like I did with the previous one.
Sweet. Okay. Uh, I'll share my screen.
Cool.
You should be able to see it.
Uh, yes. So let me just put this into full screen mode. Move it over to the side first. Put it in full screen mode and then switch over. So your screen is up on the broadcast, and then asking for increase in the volume on my mic. Cool. Pushing it up. Okay, cool. Is that better?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
Okay, cool. And then,
Hopefully mine
okay,
is good
perfect.
enough.
Yeah. Can you guys hear Ian's audio coming
Yeah.
through as well?
Hear my beautiful, charming voice.
There should
I've
be.
yeah,
No,
I've
that's.
had a few people tell me that I have a very soothing voice on Twitch. I'm just
Nicolan
kind of like,
says
well,
he can hear
all
it
right,
well.
yeah, I'm like, all right, I hope I have a soothing voice. I mean, it's as long as it's not like Freddy Krueger of a voice or like it or something, then we're good. Um, yeah, man. I mean, otherwise that's going to be a little frightening. Like, hey, hi, boys and girls. Oh man.
Yeah. Okay, so
Oh,
welcome
I've
to the stream, guys.
yeah, welcome. Thanks for joining. Hopefully you don't have a voice like us of a little girl or whatever.
Or
Hi,
Pennywise.
boys and girls. Yeah, exactly. Oh man, I had someone tell me that my new profile picture looked like Pennywise, and I'm like, oh, thanks. He's a he's a very handsome man, so I'll take it.
Yeah, so there will be a little bit of a delay, like 3 to 5 seconds between audio from us to you guys in the chat and tuning in. But if you do have questions, drop them in the chat box and I'll relay them to Ian that he can answer the questions. But also for this discussion this evening while he's doing a paint over, we're gonna keep the discussion going around working in the industry already and any questions asking around how to get started or where to find resources and stuff. I'll reply in the chat with a text message and instead of asking Ian to answer those questions because there's so many resources available and one channel in particular that makes that super easy to get started in visual effects and specifically digital matte painting is the Matte Paint Academy. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Yes, which I highly recommend for anyone to go join if you can, if you'd like. I'm on there literally all the time. I find it to be a very friendly place, um, and I like it a lot. So I kind of stick with it.
Yeah, so for
Mhm.
no, I remember when we were discussing about getting about this picture, what you were telling me about the the resources and stuff. So this backplate that Ian is using right now is actually from the matte paint gallery. So yes, this is me shamelessly punting Matte Paint Academy here as well because not only is Ian a mentor there, but it's also one of the places where I find a lot of my inspiration for matte paintings. So there's that. And then to kick off this conversation, we're going to try and keep it around the theme of if you really want to grow in the visual effects industry, but not just visual effects, this principle applies to everything else. It would be every other career, anything that you want to do outside of your career. It's the amount of effort and time you put in will determine how much you get out. And
Yeah,
that is pretty much going to be the golden thread of this conversation while Ian is
I
painting.
was yeah I was saying that yesterday. Same applies with money.
Mm.
Um, the amount of uh, the amount of money you want in your bank account is based on the amount of effort you put out. Man, I love that quote. It's so true on everything.
Yeah. So, but also if you look at, for example, taking that to extent of a project-based approach, Nicola saying unless you live in the Balkans.
Yeah, there's
So yeah,
yeah,
but if you look at that saying in regards to a project approach, for example, if you want to try a new theme or a new project in order to build your portfolio, that will enable you to get work in another skill set, which links back to what you were saying in the Artcast uh, that you were on, and you shared the link with me, where you put in the effort and the time to learn a new skill and to learn more skills to make yourself more employable, and then it paid off for you. So
it it's getting to that point. I think, I hope. I mean, I'm just doing freelance right now because of the way the virus is and such. But the goal with it is like you try to level up on what you're working on, so that when the time with the virus is finished and companies, because after, I mean, it's simple reasoning, because think about it, everything is on hold. Well, it eventually has to go back. So if everything is put on hold right now, they're going to need all that time of work being stopped needs to get back to it. So they're going to need people at a certain time to go like, oh shit, all right, we got a ton of projects, and we have 4 or 5 months of work that we got to catch up on. So how do we do that? And so that's what I was saying, like, make yourself desirable right now by leveling up on skills, so that when the time comes of companies going, okay, we have 4 months of work we got to catch up on, you're ready to go like, hey, hire me. I can do it. Give it to me. And they just go, okay. Just because they don't really, you're also kind of taking the choice away from them. I generally don't like to say that, but you're making their life easier by uh, leveling up on skills and such. And by doing that, you're taking their choice away of having to go and find other people.
yeah,
Um,
you've
yeah.
made yourself a lot more marketable for your own
Mhm.
skill set and your own income stream. So
Exactly.
the fact that they don't need to think about who are we going to hire, the candidate is right here and they're capable.
Mm, exactly. I think always pops up. Yeah, exactly. You're just making life easier for the recruiter and for other leads or whatever who are looking to hire, because they can go, hey, this guy's been doing the work. We'll give it to him.
Mm. Yeah,
Uh,
I see the one comment in here. Freelance. Oh, I was asking me to sit closer to my mic. Guys, I'm using a headset, so if my mic is soft, I need to dial that up a little bit. Let me just adjust my set. I'll have to just quickly do my settings. Cool. Whoop. Sorry about that. Audio mic. Let's. Oh, it's already set to. Let's increase the sensitivity. Okay. Is that better? And then interesting filters. I wonder. I mean, cool. Let's try this and then add a little bit of a gain. Okay. How's that, guys? If you guys. Cool. So I added a gain now and I added some stuff. Okay, perfect. Thanks. So, where were we? We were talking about marketing yourself, putting yourself out to recruiter with having upskilled and you've made yourself more desirable. And then, oh yes, Camilo Brush in Sky saying freelance and contract is the perfect formula, at least working for some into art stuff. So if I'm understanding you correctly, and please do tell me if I'm correct, like if you in an art career, then yes, that is a perfect formula because a lot of employment in the visual effects industry is purely contract based. You work per project, and in my experience, I am yet to discover a studio that hires full time. I'm in South Africa, Ian is in Canada, and here in South Africa, there's a handful of studios that come to mind when I have to think about visual effects and animation, and not a single one of them hire on a full-time basis. So yes, Camilo Brashenskaya, the freelance and contract is the perfect formula, but it is also the only formula that I know of. Unless, Ian, do you know of anyone that hires full-time?
Plenty of people. I've been noticing that as well. It really depends if you're in movies versus commercial. So here, I'll show you. Write this out. If you have there's different kind of things with it. So if you're freelance, well then yeah, it's going to be contract work, right? And it's the contract work is either going to be by day, week, or month, generally, and within 1 to 5 days, or 1 to 4 weeks, or for months is generally going to be 1 to maybe 3 months generally. I hope you can read that. If you're in movies, it's going to generally, from what I've seen, it's between 1 to 3 months or up to 6 to 9 months just for movies, roughly. Now, if you're in advertisement, that is going to be yearly, generally. And with advertisements, now with it, another thing that a lot of people always mistaken is when you have this formula and you understand the difference between freelance, working in movies, and advertisement, you also have the part of your other variables, which is, for example, location. That is a huge factor. If you're in Montreal, for example, you're going to be doing movies that is going to be that kind of contract. But if you're in advertisement, let's say in New York or LA, Chicago, or let's say London, and the list goes on, you're going to get more yearly contracts. And those yearly contracts are going to be 1 to 5 years, sometimes even generally roughly around 3 years. But because they want you to stay a long time. So you're going to have that. And then, so it really depends. There's a lot of different things that go into it. The other factor of this that some people mistake is family. Generally, people who have families are going to stay in one location for a very long time. So that's why you see people from movies move into advertisement, because they can have that consistency in a paycheck throughout the year. They don't have to have the stress of when is my stuff going to happen. Generally, or if you're very well known and you want to get into freelancing more, then yeah, this might be more sufficient for you. So it's you really kind of have to think about everything. Now, another part of it is the cost of the locations, the money of it, which can really affect whether you're freelancing, doing movies, or you're doing advertisement. So you kind of have to understand how all of that works and figure out which one works for you best. And it's okay to jump around a little bit. I mean, I've done advertisement for like a year or two. I've done freelance as advertisement. I've been working in movies with these kind of contracts. So I like being able to be in each one, so I know which one I like. And right now, I'm still kind of mixed between all three because I like it. Yeah, I hope that helps.
Yeah, that's avenue I haven't explored that much yet, but the how it would have been here from in my experience had happened. When I was advertising agency, the employment was permanent, and then the average lifespan of a creative was about 6 months to a year and a half. Then they would move on to the next agency or the next studio, and it's just like a little flow of things that I've encountered. I was told this once before when I just started out, and then I was like, what? So the designer only stays on for at most a year and a half. And then I got corrected. I was said, no, it's not that they stay on for a year and a half. It's more that the agencies regard it as if they get a year and a half out of a designer, they've had a good run. And then the designer moves on and they hire a new designer to fill that one seat. So it's,
Pretty much.
yeah. So
Which,
it sounds pretty morbid when you think about it, but also who's going to want to do the same thing for a year and a half and then still be there doing that same thing a year and a half after? Being creatives, we want to expand and explore and do more things and new things. So I guess it comes down to that, where you're not just sitting there doing it for a year and a half, but you're also looking at what's next. What can I do that's more exciting? And then
yeah, exactly.
so yeah, that's what I was. That was what was going through my head when I heard that the first time. I was like, "You're making creative people here sound like a factory line or something."
It essentially is.
That's also true.
As it pretty much is.
But that then also comes back to what you said earlier about making yourself more marketable. So if you want to move on to the next thing that's more exciting for you, you're going to have the skills to fill that position that you want to get into. So say hypothetically, for myself, I want to leave my job as a graphic designer to become a full-time matte painter. No studio is going to hire me if I don't have an understanding of what will be required. For example, basic photo retouching skills to do relighting or sky replacements at a very, very junior level.
Exactly, yeah.
Static Citizen in the comments saying, I must be the odd one out, been at the same company for almost 5 years. Actually, that's not so odd. I found that in my experiences, and feel free to add here about yours, but usually people who have been at a company for 5 years or more are the ones who fill the positions for leads and for seniors and for they become sort of like an operational role to make sure that the team who does the work have what they need. And because they've been at the company for about that time, and because they've been filling the role of a designer or an animator or an illustrator for about 5 years, they'll know what the guys coming into the position will need. So it'll be easier to get efficiency out of the team.
Exactly. And then if you're in locations, for example, like Minnesota, well, yeah, you're going to be in a situation like that. So it really just depends on where you're at and what you want to be doing. And then if you have a family and those choices, just got to figure out which one works best for you.
So before we get too caught up in the serious conversations and stuff, tell us a bit about the thinking for your piece that you're painting over here with the 3D sunken temple.
I'm still thinking about it a little bit because this is pretty much my reference board of what I was thinking. I saw the image first and immediately gave me the idea. Made me think of Appalachia, and you've got the Incas and Mayans and them running through the jungle. And then I immediately thought of Cortez and the movie Road to El Dorado, where they find the city of gold. And with it, it just clicked. In the movie, they decide to take all the gold and throw it in this like hole of water that's just swirling around, and it just as tribute to the gods. So I thought about trying to mix that idea into this a little bit. So these are just references of mood boards, of ideas, the color palette of when I'm going to paint these kind of details on there, just to get a visual understanding of, okay, what am I making? Whenever I do stuff like this, I try to find at least one movie reference, some concept work that's a little bit different in color palette and perspective, and then some more movie stuff. And then I also try to find, this is kind of something me personally, I do. I try to find a certain specific kind of detail within that movie or within that idea. So like this, if we think of these kind of cultures, they always have very solid, bright, vibrant colors that are contrasted. And then if we look at other reference of that, like we have that even right there. So I saw this, and then I was just like, oh, let's just use mega scans. And I'm still learning how to do 3D modeling and UVing. So I was like, all right, let's just model this hole, this pit, and just fill it in and see how it works. And went from there. And then the other part of it is I just spent a bunch of time just going and finding images that were related to that. Yeah, that's essentially where I'm at with it. And then with this, the idea was let's get some red in here. For the story of it, was everything's kind of pointing this way, even with all the edges of the trees and such. So I was just trying to kind of follow that direction. And then I was going to have the water come down into this, and then have I'm going to put like a stick figure, because who doesn't like stick figures?
No, we all love them.
Yeah, of people standing around this, looking down into this hole. That was kind of the idea behind it, and that's the composition of it. Because if we break this into rule of thirds, I always, when I'm doing my compositions, I always just cut the canvas straight in half like this. So I probably actually have this person right there, right on the center like that. And then if we break this down into fourths now, oops. Yeah, we're going to have that character right there again. It's literally practically on the dot. And then, I don't know, I'm just trying to kind of keep everything in the center of where it needs to be. Keep it pretty symmetrical. I love symmetry. I don't know why. I just like it. It's kind of a weird thing for me, but I try to make sure everything's pointed where it needs to be. I mean, even the center of this circle is right on that line, which was completely by accident, but it just worked. And the other part that I'd like to try to do is when I'm making these cubes, when I'm splitting up my frame, I want each cube to be telling a part of the story. I know that kind of messes with people's minds a little bit, but I like having that because I want your eye not only to be on the focus, but moving around the canvas as well.
It's sort of like taking the eye for a walk.
Yeah, exactly. And then when doing this, I ran into some really cool effects of something like this. And I was just like, oh man, that's freaking dope.
That's metal.
Yeah, it's like this liquid metal thing that like hit water or something. I don't know what it is, but I was like, oh, that's freaking fantastic. And to put that right on top of this thing. Got it. Mm-hmm.
What I think could have happened is that could have been super hot metal and then cooled down near instantly.
Exactly, yeah.
Raymond Menard, remember when you joined for the stream of the concept artist, Raymond? He joined our chat channel here and he says, like, looks like I'm not working alone tonight. No, Raymond, you're not working alone. And he says that the metal looks tasty.
It is. I love juicy images, man.
It's you know that you sometimes hit this little gold mine when there's an image like this where it's so rich in texture and you can apply it to multiple areas and just extract the detail, and it works for more than you think. Sort of like finding that favorite Photoshop brush.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, yeah.
I mean, even on this, it's working quite nicely. Just as I think that's kind of cool. And then I'm just painting it really quickly. I'm not being anal about it, just to just to get an idea of what it could look like.
One comment from Raymond. I have this one texture of roots that I use for zombie and dragon skin. That actually, I can picture that playing out in my head, how that will work.
You can use the weirdest textures for stuff. You just got to be clever with it.
Yeah, it's I've seen quite a couple of times where I would drop stuff in and then I think I'm doing a good job, but then when I show it to someone, it's not such a good job. And then I get critique from them, and then I'm like, this is actually pretty cool. And then when I take to heart what they said, when they start explaining their feedback, then I start thinking to myself, like, okay, this works. Let me put this into my image, and then most of the time my image is better off because I applied that feedback, which makes me think back about the times I've had to give someone feedback, and then I would give them honest feedback about their work, and then they would get very defensive and throw the line of, it's my style. I'm like, okay, cool, you can have your style, but it doesn't mean you
ask for feedback.
Exactly. Why did you ask feedback? And if you want to stick to your style, just don't forget the fundamentals.
Yeah. The other part with feedback, I think, is if you're going to ask for feedback, be like, I think it's so important to. This is some stuff that I've learned just in my own journey of trying to figure stuff out. Is be specific on what you want for someone to look at. Be specific. Say like, hey, this is the part that I'm trying to figure out. I'm not having a lot of luck. Can you take a look at it? And then they put their area of focus on that one spot, which I think is very important to do. Because if you just go like, hey, look at my image overall, well, they're going to comment on lighting, composition, and if the overall image is very well integrated. And if it's not at all, if that image is not integrated well at all, you're going to get comments on the lighting and the composition instantly. But if you go like, hey, Neal, I'm working on this ring and I'm having trouble with it. Can I get your feedback on it? Well, your eye isn't going to be focused on all this other stuff. it's going to be focused on looking at that one part and going, okay, I'm going to go in with a bit more of a critical, specific eye of what needs to be done.
Yeah.
And I think that's the way to go with it. Because I've seen people go like, I gotta give my feedback on everything. Well, no, you don't. Just be specific.
It's also one of the reasons why when I ask for feedback, I've stopped placing my pieces in a group or on a Facebook group and going, what do you guys think? Because then I get bombarded with a multitude of different views, and there will be nuggets to take away, but then there will also be a lot of noise towards what I forgot how I said it. It's like there will be a lot of noise about different perspectives when, as opposed to if I had to come to you in a message and go, hey dude, I'm busy with this. These are the areas I'm
that I'm focused on.
Yeah. Can you please give me feedback? So then having that one stream of feedback to work with is a lot better for me than having to filter out noise from a group where I have a whole lot of people, and then just being able to focus on just that one bit of feedback or that one channel makes the work get better, faster.
Yeah, exactly. It makes it better and faster, and it saves you time. Because you don't have to go in looking at everything. You can go in and just be with an eagle eye of like, hey, here's where you need to look at, and there you go, and you're set.
I have to laugh now. One of the comments here from Raymond: I don't ask for feedback. Feedback asks me.
There's generally that too. That'll happen. Be accurate though.
Yeah, and then which then also makes me think about the times that I've given feedback to someone where I was shown a piece and I would tell them my thoughts on the artwork, and then that's where I learned about it. I think I told you about this. I called it, where I learned about it is a critique sandwich. So would say one thing that is good, that really stands out, that is very well done, and then the filling of the sandwich, which is the actual critique about what needs to be worked on, depending on whether the person asked me for one thing specifically or the whole thing, and then the other layer, which is now the other part of the sandwich, is then something that was very well done. And then I found that giving criticism in that way works quite well.
Yeah, you just start off with good feedback, and just be specific about it.
I love this one comment that came through from Statty Citizen. I always only send my work to my mom for feedback. That way I only get nice comments and I can feel good about myself.
And can I give you my mom's number? Because my mom needs to learn that. Jesus. Like, my mom is brutal about my work, dude.
Yeah,
damn. It's just, and like when you're giving feedback, like just start off with being like, hey, you put in time, you put in effort, good job. Now here's what we can do to improve it.
And I've also found quite a bit that if you've actually go to someone for feedback and you have something to show, the fact that you've put in the time and effort to have something ready makes the other person a lot more willing to give feedback. And that actually reminds me of something else you said in the Artcast, where when you ask someone for feedback, there's an expectation of you to put in the time and effort to apply it. And you shouldn't just put in 10% and then expect the answers to always be there.
Yeah, exactly. Where did you find that? That's actually pretty good.
I don't know. You said it in the previous Artcast, Thinking Out Loud. So
yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna link the Artcast podcast that I just referenced to you guys in the chat. Then after this live stream, at the end of the live stream, before I kill the stream, because I don't want to bring up my menu again and then it goes over in the screen and then everyone can see what's going on my menu. Ian was in a interview on I've forgotten the YouTube channel's name now. I'm so sorry.
But Digital Artcast.
Yeah, Digital Artcast. And in this chat, Ian and the interviewer,
Gordon,
yeah. They really go in depth into about what is important with applying general life skills to your art and getting ahead of where you want to be. And I would highly recommend you guys go watch that YouTube episode. And some of the things I referenced here so far, I pulled from that Artcast. And then
we were not expecting to get that deep into it. It was kind of weird at the end of the conversation. It was like, we talked a lot of stuff that I generally don't open up about. But in a way, I'm happy we did it. See, this is something I like in digital imaging. Like, got a happy accident here where I just got green in. So on that element, I brought up the rings that I had before, and I'm just trying to add some of these colors from that image on top. And then I wanted an opposing color for this purple, but because I have the purple on top of it, I get wherever I painted blue, there's also going to be some green. So,
and that's also quite cool because if you look at copper, when it oxidizes, then it does that as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So, in a way, you're hinting that there's metal deposits in the stone.
Exactly. It's not just... This is why I love digital imaging. You can do so much with things like this to just enrich the image. And it's little stuff like this that I just happy accidents happen like this, and I find it fun because you never know what will happen with it. And then I know I can feel that I'm going to get someone say, like, what brushes are you using? the one that works the best. That's my answer to that every single time.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
that works.
I've had that question before, and then I told them the same thing, and it was someone who asked me about how to get started making art, and I said to them that they wanted to know what's the best tools to buy. So I said to them, first of all, the best tools to buy to get started in making art is what you have right in front of you. So if you've got a straightforward ballpoint pen and an exam pad, that's the best tools to use to get started with art. If you've got a normal, some of the guys here talking about starting coffee mornings with you, and one guy, Camilo Brushin's guy, says mix Red Bull and coffee, and let me see, what were some of the other ones? Okay, that one I can't read.
That bad, huh?
Yeah, it's rather.
Is it from Camilo?
No, Camilo is the Red Bull and coffee. It's Raymond's one that's that I can't say the first part, and he says you mix that with a nice shot of espresso and some Ritalin for a very balanced and productive day.
That's dang good. Yeah, there you go.
And a comment came through from Jason Stewart VFX. I always need feedback when I'm in the middle of a painting and it looks like a mess and I need help moving forward, but I don't want to post the mess online. See, Jason, that is exactly the same reason why I never post my work for feedback in a large group, but I rather ask one person to look at it who I know will be able to guide me to get that mess towards a cohesive story.
Yeah. I generally have a rule of thumb for asking for criticism that I use all the time, and it is the 10 versus 100 method. If you post online, you're going to get 100 different opinions straight off the bat, 100 different opinions, and they're going to vary in feedback. So you're not going to know which one you need to listen to. So I look at that and go, well, what's the fucking point? Excuse my language, but
It's fine.
Like, why should I ask for the opinion of 50 billion people? I only need to ask the opinion of the ones that I honestly think is worthy of it.
Yeah.
And so with it, I generally ask only, I have like 10 people I go and ask for feedback on everything. I have my concept artist friend, Nicola. I think he's in the chat.
I think so, yeah. You did mention him earlier.
Yeah. I tend to ask him because he's got that conceptual eye, not in terms of like the technical stuff of here's what goes into map painting, because he's not a map painter, he's a concept artist, but he knows how to give the feedback in the right way of like, oh, here's your story. Okay, here's some of the things that we need in that concept to push the idea better. Then I've got friends like Stefan or Conrad Allen, who are map painters in the visual effects industry, where they give me feedback saying like, all right, here they go into the technical side of it. They're not the most artistic people, but they can go in with the technical side. And when I mean the technical, they look at the lighting and the shadow and the exact color point of it. They're not going in saying, hey, your composition's this, because it's not their strong suit.
So you would basically then ask the person whose strengths play into what you're looking to ask for.
Yeah, exactly.
Raymond says you can phone him and bribe him with ice cream and he'll give you the best feedback.
That too. I always tell people, if you want to bribe me, it's always Oreos and M&Ms.
Oreos and M&Ms. The chocolate M&Ms or the M&Ms with peanuts in them?
That's a question.
Or Skittles?
Skittles. Yeah.
It's like
Oof,
like if
one of those.
If you really want to, if someone who's very pedantic about their M&Ms and their Skittles, if you really want to confuse them, get a bowl and throw both in the same bowl and just leave them to have to sort it out themselves.
Yeah, exactly. That's funny.
I mean, for me, it's like, it's more sweets.
I had an English teacher on April Fool's Day. She took Oreos, took out the center, and put in toothpaste, and gave it out to her students. And I was like, that's fucking genius. I mean, that's cruel, but genius. And then she did the same thing with like Cheetos. Did something kind of similar like that. Okay, so here we go. We got this. Operating. I mean, I didn't put a perfect mask on this, but
that's fine.
When I'm detailing stuff like this, I want to go and detail the crap out of it, and then I'm going to put the water on top of it.
Yeah.
Because that just enriches the image.
I've found quite a lot in my recent works that, because I'm very new myself to a lot of this, where when I bring in detail and I put it down and I add detail over that and I start balancing them, I need to learn to find that balance between having the detail that I want to push through and the detail that I want to be predominant, so that they work together instead of fighting each other for attention.
Yeah. And one to do the same thing. Go. Yeah. That should be created.
So yeah, but and then also
Keeping it simple.
no, then I forgot what I wanted to say.
All about detail, man.
Yeah, it's damn it, my head is not screwed onto my shoulders right now. Sorry, guys. No, it was something I wanted to say about detail that I learned recently. Oh, yes. When it comes to how much to add, I also found that getting just the right amount of detail and the right amount of finish on the area where you want someone to look, and then from there, everything else around it complements it and then balances it out. So when you have one area that's heavily detailed, quite a bit of the image around that won't be as detailed, because the important part that you want them to look at is the area that has the most contrast, that's the most polished, and has the most craft applied to it, and then everything else is additional.
Exactly. I've been actually teaching Camilo that it's put the detail where the most, where you want your viewer to see everything the most. In map painting, it's like the complete freaking opposite. It's put detail everywhere in any way possible. Okay.
Yeah, I can imagine that. I've seen quite a few posts in the Matte Paint group on Facebook where someone will post something, and then I'm not sure if I saw not one recently, because I haven't been on Facebook actively for more than 2 seconds in the last 2 weeks, so I haven't been looking much. But one of the posts I saw was there was this picture posted where what you and I discussed now was applied perfectly. There was one area with a lot of detail, and everything else around it wasn't as detailed. And then someone else went and they started commenting, asking what's the purpose of the matte painting, and the person said they wanted to use it as a backplate for multiple shots. And then the feedback that guy got was, but in that case, this piece won't work because you've finished it to the point of having only one purpose, so you can use it only in one shot. And then they started pointing out all the small details that need to be in focus, that need to be polished if they want to use it in multiple shots. And that's then what makes me think of what you said now, is like put detail everywhere in any way possible.
But it also really depends on the type of the matte painting as well. Because if you're trying to do one matte painting that's going to be used in multiple shots, you kind of need a straight off lock off shot that you can use for all of that. Otherwise, if you have a perspective like this and you want to have different camera angles, well, the camera angles have to be pretty much in the same viewpoint. If I have something where the camera's right down there, it ain't going to work. Like at all, it's just not going to work. So you really got to be careful with it,
and also be aware of what exactly you're placing and how you're placing it. For example, with what you're busy with here and that cavity that you're putting at the bottom of the hole, I noticed that as you're turning it, and I'm gonna hazard a guess now that you're paying careful attention to the lighting, but also to the direction of the cavity itself.
The direction of it, I'm not too worried about the lighting quite yet. I'm just trying to get making sure the direction of everything is where it needs to be. And the one thing I love doing as a matte painter is I love using the same image again and again. I try to put focus on doing things like that, because it's different. It's definitely a different perspective of how to do it.
Okay, yeah, no, I
So
see.
it's
Yeah.
just same image and it looks completely different.
And it's also a time saver because if you have to rebuild a lot of things over and over and over, you're going to end up running into a bottleneck.
Mm-hmm.
And if you were to take that in a big studio environment where you have to work with a team of say 100 to 300 or more other artists, and you guys have to rebuild things the whole time, it's going to cause the project to go into overtime. And then you'll find where people get frustrated, they start shouting at each other. It easily reaches the point of 2, 3 o'clock, sometimes 4, 5 o'clock in the mornings. And then only thing you can do from there is sit there, muscle through that part of the journey, then go home, go have a meal, shower, sleep for 30 minutes if you have that luxury, and then go back to studio the next a couple of hours later. And
Exactly.
ideally, one would avoid such a situation, because once you're there, then you start realizing, oh crap, okay, so maybe this is just something I should have prepared for a little bit better.
Exactly, yeah. You just gotta be smart with your photos. That's all it really is. Just be smart with them, study the way they work and function and the movement of them. Because you can really cheat a lot with how photos work. You can really get clever with it.
And especially because it's a digital medium where you have the ultimate luxury of undo.
Yeah, there's that. I am so happy we have that. If we didn't, I would be screwed.
And the best part is that the undo doesn't just come in the form of Command or Control Z. It also comes in the form of masks, like you're using right now.
I love masks, man.
Yeah, masks are a lifesaver.
Oh yeah. It's in a way, it is literally the secret to Photoshop. I'm not kidding. It is. Ever since I learned how to use groups and mask with groups and color correcting, that's all I use.
Yeah.
There's nothing special about it. It's not like there's this hidden secret. At first, it kind of seemed that way when I got into this. There was this weird kingship of only a few people mastered it and figured it out, and I was like, fuck that, like I gotta figure this out.
Yeah, no.
And there we go. So now we got our and I like that it's kind of twisting oddly and whatnot. I need something way down there though, so
yeah, it's like
let's use the exact same image.
Yeah. So one thing I remember now, when we were talking about you end up working 2, 3 a.m. in the morning, and this is now purely me going to be like, dude, what advice do you have for this situation? And I realize I'm putting you a bit in the limelight here, but say now you find yourself in a spot, it's 3 o'clock in the morning, you look at your watch, and you stay quite safe. Hypothetically, you stay quite far from the studio, and traveling home and traveling to the studio will end up taking you longer than just sleeping under your desk, which you then end up in a very uncomfortable situation. For maintaining professionalism in that environment where you're frustrated, everyone will understand that. But what would you say are some of the key points to keep in mind as you're working through that situation and environment, where it's not just you that's frustrated, it's your team members that are frustrated, it's your leads that are frustrated, your managers, everyone that are sitting there with you at that moment in time. So what would you say are some important things to keep in mind while working through that with the team to get the project through the door and over the line and get it wrapped up so that everyone can move on with their days and get on to the next project or the next shot?
Be understanding. Go in with an open heart and be like, okay, they have pressure. Like my lead, he had supervisors on his ass. He had to deal with all the artists. He had to deal with the producers, the production team. He had to deal with probably 30 people. And if everyone's stressed, that makes it harder. So I'm a big person of, like, when you go into studio, say hello, say good morning, get up, grab coffee, try to smile a little bit. When people are in studios, they tend to have music plugged in, but as much as I like that, I tend to just sit there and try to make jokes when I can. Or the one thing like I did at the mill was I made a chat where it was only all the matte painters were in that chat, no one else. And what me and a few other people did, like I hope he's all right with me mentioning his name, Elliot. We would throw memes in there. We made a Facebook group chat, and we would just throw stuff in there, because everyone sees it, and you can hear people laughing, and it just makes you feel like you're not alone. Even though you're there and you're working hard. I mean, as long as you're getting shit done, try to lighten it up a little bit. It's good that you're going in with the mindset of, all right, I got to get shit done, but try to lighten it up a little bit. And it does make the environment feel a little bit nicer. I mean, for me, it did. At first, it felt like, oh man, this sucks. It's quiet. Nobody says anything. And I'm not one for liking that. So I thought, well, let's try to change that a little bit. I wonder if this will work.
Yeah, I see in the comment feed about the masks. One of our viewers, Alexia Rosen, still needs to learn to use masks, and that's it took me. I think I only learned about masks in my second year of using Photoshop, because I didn't learn Photoshop by going on a course or taking out a short course or anything. My Photoshop training was literally, I sat down, the guy told me, those are your tools, this is your canvas, that's your menu, that's your layers palette, go. And that was my Photoshop training, and I had to figure out everything from there. So it was a little tutorial here, a little YouTube video there, a little this, a little that, and then eventually I just got better by making mistakes.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. But I can show you the basics of it. It's like, if that's your image, I do things based on depths of field for depths of field and objects. That's for me, that is a huge key part. So if I show you this, like I've got one for the ring, one for the statue on the right, one on the left, and then my background image. And then if there's all my renders, there's one for all my checkers. And then if I have, like, when I put water on top, that'll be a new group, and call it like waterfall. And I name groups based on what it is I'm doing. And then within groups within groups, I do it on the same thing based on object and what that element is. That's the secret to it. Nothing else. That really is it. And I try to just keep it as simple as possible. You don't ever want group within a 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 group. Like, oh dear God, that's going to destroy your Photoshop. But if you keep it minimal, you're going to have a way easier time.
I'm scrolling up now here in the comments to see which ones I've missed. And Camilo Brush in Sky says he asks his dogs, and the best feedback is wow. And then we have Raymond saying that with the memes, they literally take some concepts from in-house and meme it up. And then I know for a fact that Alexia Rosen uses Clip Studio Paint because she does a lot of illustration. Alexia, I'm gonna look into that for you, and I'll come back to you about the masking in Clip Studio. I'm not sure about it myself that much, so let me look into that and get back to you about it. And then the whole thing about memes and lightening up the mood. I remember sitting in a discussion one day for Nuke with a visual effects artist who worked on, I think it was Knocked Up. I'm not sure. I haven't seen the movie, but I do know that in this particular movie, there's a very graphical scene of a birth taking place. And so then what the VFX team did is they wrapped up the shot ahead of schedule. And then as a little joke to themselves, they made all sorts of things come into the world. And that was their little internal joke. So that's how they made that particular shot more enjoyable for them to work on. Because as they were doing the actual shot, they were like, hey, imagine this comes out. Or, hey, imagine that came out. Hey, imagine this woman just gave birth to this object or that object. And I'm just sitting there in the audience, I'm chuckling because for me, this is hilarious that they're having this sort of discussion amongst each other as if this is the direction we would take this shot if we had the time now to actually go and mess around. But yeah, so they finished the shot a bit ahead of schedule, and then they were having that banter amongst each other and laughing about it. And it was quite funny. I think one of them even introduced, I think it was a Death Star or something. It was like, yo. But yeah, so Forest. What? Okay, I see what you mean. And then let me just go back in here to make sure that I'm addressing or that I'm catching all of the comments and stuff and answering any questions that might be coming through.
But this is kind of how I do it. Just again, like there's my group for each object. So now I'm making this floor part is its own object. I've got my image in there, and I just mask that out, or I put the image in. I'll invert the mask so I can't see it, and then I'll paint where I want to replace that object, just like this. And now I can go and be like, okay, now if I want something here, whatever, by adding another mask on this, I now have way more dynamic range with the way the mask works with other objects. It just makes it easier to work with and color adjust. And the other reason I work like this is I can do everything I'm doing on this. I can take it and project it in Nuke with this way,
and the mask would be preserved.
Exactly.
Yeah. So also to all of you tuning in, if you do have any questions, drop it in the chat. If I do miss it, every now and then I do scroll back up in the chat to make sure that I get questions and that I do answer them. And then also a lot of the pictures and source material used here, apart from the 3D model that Ian modeled, is from the matte paint gallery. And also, if any of you want to learn more about matte painting, like I said in the beginning of the stream, if you want to learn more, you want to find out where you can get any images, resources, tutorials, great feedback, mentorships, there's the Matte Paint Academy for that. There's even a Discord server, which has a lot of the links that you might require. And then also on Facebook, the groups and then Ian himself is a mentor on the Matte Paint Academy. So what we're talking about and discussing here is stuff that you can learn further with and learn more, and then just improve your skills if you want to learn something new, or if you just want to have a general chat with other matte painters. You can even jump on the Discord and start a conversation. It's really amazing.
I'm on there all the time. Just everyone's friendly. Everyone's in there. We treat it like a family. I'm very loyal to that group just because I was talking about it on the chat. Like I get what it's like to literally have nobody help you, for no one to give you a light of day.
Yeah.
So I'm very big on wanting to help people. So if anyone ever has questions about matte painting or whatever, or you have some fears, come and talk to me, because I'm sure I probably had those exact same fears.
Yeah, that reminds me of something. I think you and I discussed this not so long ago. Yeah, it wasn't that long ago, about ego. And it was in regards to a piece you were doing, but that's pretty much as far as I'm going to go with that. It was a piece you were doing, and then the ego around that certain situation, managing another person they were self-projecting their own thoughts and their own onto something you did that was quite well done. Well, I would say it was quite well done, and I really did like the piece. But it comes down to, if you put your ego aside for a bit, and feel free to agree with me or disagree with me here, and I know I'm dropping a philosophy sort of vibe here now, but if you put aside your ego for a bit, regardless of whether you're a junior, a mid, or senior, someone comes and asks for help, and you've got the answer. They came to you, cool, and then you provide them with that help in a way that they feel appreciated. It'll go a lot further than just telling someone, no, you're wrong, but not explaining why. So, and it also comes back to the criticism. If you're going to give criticism to someone, you have to be able to give it in a way that you're telling them where they're making a mistake, but you have to be able to tell them why what they are doing is a mistake.
Yeah, exactly. Back it up with fact. I'm really big on that. Back it up with fact. Don't just say I'm right, you're wrong. Well, because at that point you're going to get someone coming back going, well, screw you and your opinion. Why should I have to listen to you? So it's very helpful to just go like, hey, here's why I see this, and here's why, and here's how I would solve that issue. If you do things like that, you're going to have a way easier time than just going, I'm right, you're wrong.
I remember a good example of this, which actually did happen with me and you in a conversation from about 2 years ago, and I know I brought this up before as well, is a piece I did. I think it was my second matte painting of a pirate ship. It's a nighttime scene, and the ship is docked in a bay. And what I'd ended up doing is putting the ship too close to the shore, but I didn't know that I'd done that. And then when you looked at the piece, you told me, Neal, this ship is too close to the shore, and this is why. And then you explained to me about the realism of the piece, that the ship has to be further away, otherwise it's going to be a beached ship, and it's not going to be a docked ship.
Right. You got to have reasons for everything, man. Absolutely everything. And when you're starting out, it's hard to get reasons for things because you have to study a lot. But as you do more and more of it, it really gets easier. I promise you, it gets easier. And part of it is just look at it with a critical eye, and it might help you out.
Actually, I'm reminded now of another topic I've discussed once before is about actually having the courage to ask someone for feedback. And
Mhm.
I found that quite a bit as well, where especially I had that starting out, and I see that, and this is now
Mhm.
starting out in design, animation, every creative skill I've ever encountered. I've seen this happen where someone, they're new to the
Mhm.
field, they don't have confidence in their ability.
But they
They've,
still provide feedback.
yeah. And then
Yeah.
a lot of times that feedback is correct because
Mhm.
they're citing something they've learned from a professional who gave them that feedback. And so then
Mhm.
but then also those same people will be too afraid to ask a senior feedback
Mhm.
for something new that they want to learn because they're too afraid. And
Mhm.
you shouldn't be afraid to ask for feedback from someone who you look up to.
Right. I mean, that's the whole point of feedback is you want to improve. That's it.
Mm.
That's the whole point with it.
Uh,
Um, mhm.
and I was just thinking, what could also be cool is if you see someone that's very senior who you look up to and you know that they've got the world of knowledge and experience ahead of you, but you see them posting something and ask, what do you think of this piece? Would you change anything? Have the courage to give input on it because
Mhm.
the the fact that you're taking the time and effort to provide a viewpoint shows that you
Mhm.
have observational and critical thinking ability of which direction a piece can go or could have gone
Mhm.
or would be going instead of,
Exactly.
yeah. And I
Mhm.
saw a post recently where something like that had happened. A very senior artist posted an art piece and asked the group, what do you guys think I could do better or could have
Mhm.
done differently? And then I don't recall seeing a lot of comments going, I would have done this differently in this way. Instead, what I
Mhm.
saw quite a bit of was, I don't
Picking
think,
up.
yeah, I don't think I should give feedback to you because you're a senior, you know what you're doing. We're sure that you already made the best decision for this piece. And then this particular artist was like, each and every one that told him something like that, he would reply, but I am sure that you see something you would do differently. What would you have done differently? And then I was just like, guys, have the
I,
courage to share your ideas.
I know exactly who you're talking about. It's it's good and it's bad. That is one of those tricky things because you never know how that person's going to take it.
Mm,
Um, I think better go away. There we go. Yeah, with the digital media, you never know um, how that person's going to take it. They could take it really badly. I've had some people who were like, Ian, you're so new to this. Why should I trust your opinion? It's like, I'm not saying to. It's like, you came to me asking for my opinion. I'm going to give it to you because you asked
yeah.
for it. Outside of that, if you don't want it, honestly, don't ask.
Yeah.
Um, and I've gotten a little brutal with it because I I think it's one of those tricky things that there's a time to give feedback and then there's a time just not to.
Mm,
And I think it's important to know when and when not to. If someone's asking for it, yes, give feedback, but be specific. Don't just
mm,
say I'm right, you're wrong. Well, because that's not going to do anything for you.
mm,
Um, is that working? I don't think that's working. Just be very specific about it, and then also acknowledge that they worked hard and that they were trying. I've seen too many people go in with "I'm right, you're wrong," and you did a really bad job. Well, it's kind of like, well, thanks for telling me that.
mm.
um, it's, I don't know, just don't be an asshole about it. Like, as honestly as I can say it, just don't be an asshole and take it with a grain of salt.
Mm. Yeah, I recall that our conversation in the previous live stream that I had with Raymond, who's now currently in our chat stream, where we were talking about when you're working with a client. And also, don't be an asshole. Just be professional and realize that there's a time and place for everything.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I see
Uh,
in the comments now as well, Don D. Chuiden saying, I can relate to this somewhat. I had an experience when my boss was asking for feedback from me, but then he didn't want feedback. He wanted me to say that what he was doing was good.
yeah, you're always going to get that too.
Yeah.
There's you're going to get times when you just need to say, "Hey, good job," that's it.
Mm.
And just do it, and that's okay, because sometimes that's all that people are just looking for. It's just for you to acknowledge and go, "Hey, you did a good job." That's it, nothing else.
Yeah.
And keep it simple to being like that.
Mm.
So you just have to be able to read the situation, I think.
Yeah. And also know the people, know or be able to judge whether the feedback you're going to give is going to be brutal or if it's going to be with padded gloves.
Yeah.
So I remember sitting.
I just take it. Yeah. Go ahead.
I remember sitting in a conversation recently, and then they asked me, "So, how do you take feedback?" And I said to them, "I would prefer you tell me straight up if it looks bad, and not even try to sugarcoat it. Because if it's bad and it doesn't fit the story, and it doesn't fit the theme or the project, but ends up damaging it, then it has no place. And then I would rather
Yeah,
fix
exactly.
it."
Exactly. And a lot of people don't think that way. So that's why I always say, like, if you're asking for feedback, go to only a few people, because that's all you really need. Just a second. You just need to go to only those few people and nothing else.
Yeah, and then also if you have those few people who you know you can go to for feedback, like you were saying earlier, for concept art feedback, you have one person or group you go to. For your technical feedback, you have one group or person you go to, and you know that when you ask that specific person for that feedback, for example, if you want Conrad from MatPaint to look at a piece for you, to give you his eye, then you know that you're going to him because he's the one that you trust for that specific feedback on matte painting.
Exactly. I have one person that I go to for lighting. I have one person for the technical side of matte painting. I have a cinematographer that I ask. I have Nicola for the concept work. And these same people that I ask for feedback come to me in return going like, "Hey, you're doing really good. Here's something I'm working on. Can I get you to take a look at it?" So it does go both ways, and you can build a good relationship with these people. Crap, there we go. So I just keep it simple with feedback. Keep it straight to the point. Be honest about it. Give feedback only when it's needed. And I don't know. It's one of those tricky subjects, because you ultimately you don't know how another person's going to take it.
And then again, if they asked for feedback and they receive it, they must also be willing to receive it how they get it, unless they pointed out specifically what they want feedback on. Like we were saying earlier, if you just post something and go, hey, what do you think? As opposed to, hey, I'm busy with this, but I'm struggling with, let's say, for example, this inner side of this ring. Can you give me some pointers on fixing it? Then the type of feedback you receive will be different for the two questions. And that's also something that comes across as important, is knowing how to ask for feedback, knowing how to receive it, but also being able to give it. So it's three sides to the same thing.
What was it made me totally think of it. Joey Tribbiani and Friends, when he's marrying Chandler and Monica, of giving and receiving and giving. His proposal speech, it's literally that. I'm trying to think of, I would have to Google it word for word, but it was just, he said it perfectly.
We'll have to, I'll go look it up after our stream, and then he said it's in Friends, and it's where the okay, cool. Joey is marrying Chandler, okay, cool. I'll go look that up. Alexia says that was an amazing speech. Alexia, can you please type in the comments for us the part in the speech if you have it at hand? That'll be cool. Then I can just read the comment to everyone that's tuned in at the moment. Thank you. I see that she says, give me a sec, so I think she's going to get it quickly for us.
Okay.
So, but yeah, that then also, that whole concept of being able to receive feedback, ask for feedback, but give feedback, that makes me think of when you working in a team, which you will be for 99% of the time, to be a better team player, understand that your part in the overall project is just as important as the guy doing more than you on a different part of the project, because everything works together, and you need to work with the rest of the guys because they're working with you, and just being accommodating and being an overall nice guy, not being an asshole, and being responsible and mature enough to know that this is a huge project. Let's just work together. I'm thinking about that now as well, that we discussed earlier. Like, if you're sitting there 2:00 in the morning, lighten the mood for everyone, and everyone will in turn lighten it for you as well. And you guys will then end up building a good working relationship.
Yeah.
And after the project, you guys will probably go have some beers together and laugh. And then you'll realize you've made some industry friends because of this experience you all just shared.
Exactly. I mean, there's been times when I told everyone in the team, like, hey, let's go out for a beer. First beer's on me. Like, I don't care what the cost, get literally whatever you want. And they go, okay. And it's as odd as it is, it gives them good incentive to go like, yeah, let's go out and chill. And they tend to come back going, hey, thank you for that. That was really, that I needed that or something.
So I remember having a similar experience not so long ago. It's now May, February, March, April. So in March, I had a job I was working on where it was about, I think it was about 7:30 the night. It was before the self-isolation rules and stuff for COVID had started. It was here in Cape Town and South Africa. We would never have, even at that stage, expected things to be the way they are now. But so we were sitting there. It's about 7:30 the night, and I'm getting hungry, and I've got my creative lead with me and our senior copywriter. And I know for a fact that I'm getting hungry and I need to eat because my hands are starting to shake.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, cool, guys, I'm going to order pizza. You're welcome to have, but you're also welcome to not have. Truth is, I'm going to have 3-4 slices, then I'm full, which means there's going to be basically 3/4 to a half a pizza left. And they're like, no, it's fine, we're fine. So I ordered the pizza anyway, because it's like, I mean, come on, you 3 guys, it's going to be a long night. You're going to want food, and you know that they're going to want food as well. So bought the pizza, and then
Exactly.
the next day, the senior copywriter comes to me. He's like, actually, thank you, Neal. That pizza went down well.
Yeah, just something a little like that just goes a long ways.
Mm.
So I'm just trying to get this shadow to work. Just something little like that. I mean, another thing we did at the studio was people would walk in with like donuts for the entire team or croissants or whatever for as your breakfast or something, which was awesome. I love that. I'll never turn down food.
Oh, definitely, dude.
But just just to have a peer walk in and be like, hey, here's a bunch of donuts. Have at it. It's awesome.
Yeah, I had a colleague that did that for us. We have Krispy Kreme here in Cape Town. Sorry if you guys I heard some scratching and stuff happening now. My cat just got up on my lap and then laid down right on my headset's cord. So I had to get it out from under her. So we've got Krispy Kreme here, and they've been here for about roughly a year, I think. Anyone who knows the accurate details of how long they've been in South Africa is welcome to correct me. But so she would come in quite a lot of the time and put a box of donuts on the table and say, hey, you guys can have. It's like, oh, lifesaver.
It is. It really, really is. Just things like that. It just makes life easy. And it puts people in a good mood instantaneously. So why not do it?
Yeah, it reminds me of a saying I've heard, and I know I've repeated this saying quite a bit. Everything works better if you unplug it for a bit, even yourself.
Yes.
Let's see, Raymond in the chat says they always have a round of beers after work. At 5, the fridge opens and they all have one. They even have a company beer budget.
Some companies have that, others sadly do not. But it is it's so helpful when you get it.
Yeah, that goes a long way. And then some companies also have a coffee budget, so then they have a barista to give morning coffees and afternoon coffees.
Exactly.
Yeah, I worked at a company that had a subsidized coffee. So they had the barista in front, and it was up until 10 a.m. you could have one free cup of coffee. But after 10 a.m., it was roughly 10 South African Rand, which is, I think, $0.50 at the moment, because it's 20 Rand to $1. So I would say $0.50 for a cup of coffee after 10 a.m., which to me is like, that's a...
yeah.
Yes. Because...
Yes, please.
On average, it's about 35 to 40 South African Rand for a cup of coffee from a shop like Seattle Coffee or Vida Cafe or stuff like that, or like a Starbucks coffee even. So you're looking at anything from 30 to 50 South African Rand. So 10 Rand for a cup of coffee is a steal.
Yeah, it is. Wow. So that's fantastic.
So yeah, the company subsidized the coffee because it was tech. So Alexia came back here with the speech from Friends, and thanks Alexia. She had to type it out because she could only find it in pics. So it says, we're gathered here today on this joyous occasion to celebrate the special love that Chandler and Monica share. It is a love based on giving and receiving, as well as having and sharing. And the love that they give and have is shared and received. And through this having and giving and sharing and receiving, we too can share and love and have and receive. Well,
So on point.
yeah, that just whole speech should be done in a nice typography poster, printed and framed when it comes to criticism. Because
Exactly.
criticism is the one thing that I love getting. And a lot of times I prefer it to be more honest than someone going, I don't know how to tell you this looks bad. I'd rather have you go, listen, this looks bad, this is why. This is not good
Yeah,
practice,
exactly.
this is why.
Exactly. It's hard to do though, and I can understand why it's hard to do. But
Yeah.
Let's see here. I'm just trying to think of how I'm going to put this water on top of this.
Oh yeah, yeah. We've been now live for just under 2 hours, right? And I think we've actually covered quite a lot of ground with topics that I've rarely seen be discussed.
I mean, is there anything specific anyone is always wondering about?
Yeah, okay, let's see here. Jason Stewart VFX just wrote, I'm coming from another part of the business where feedback or criticism is part of the gig. But being new to matte painting, it seems more personal, especially knowing that I barely know what I'm doing and still don't know if I'll be any good. Ian, I'm going to pass the mic to you to answer or comment on that first, and then you can give him
what
feedback.
was the question on that?
He says, I'm coming from another part of the business where feedback or criticism is part of the gig. But being new to matte painting, it seems more personal, especially knowing that I barely know what I'm doing and still don't know if I'll be any good.
At that point, you just have to wing it and go with it and be like, okay, make sure you're giving feedback that is right, not just because you think it is. Back it up with reason. You'll have a way easier time with getting people to listen. Instead of it just being like, hey, listen to me and what I have to say, and that's it. And when you first start, I think just in general, it's just good practice just to, even for seniors or any level, just to be like, hey, first off, start off with acknowledging that they put in time and effort. Be like, hey, you did a great job. You put time into this. Or if they're showing you progression, be like, hey, this is a lot better since last time, but here's a few things that I would go back and fix up a little bit. It's all in how you word it. And I think it's just good practice for anyone and everyone just to do it that way. Instead, rather than going in with I'm right, you're wrong. Go in with, hey, we're here as a team. Let's make this work, and here's what we can do to make that work. I think what you'll get in return is going to be a lot nicer. I mean, I've had some supervisors and some seniors go in with, I'm right, you're wrong, you got to listen to me, and if you don't, there's a fucking door. And my response to those tends to be like, first off, screw you. Secondly, like, if I got into an argument once. I probably shouldn't be talking about this, but I got into an argument once with a supervisor where he literally came up and he's like, "This is a fucking terrible painting. You don't know how to paint. This pixel's wrong. How long have you been working in movies?" And I said, "This is my first full year working in movies." It's like, "What experience do you have prior to that?" I said, "Advertisement." And he's like, "Fuck advertisement and fuck what you're doing." It's like, dude, like,
Wow.
no, like,
Wow.
like, just no. If you got an issue with me and my performance, you can fire me. But to talk to me like that, don't you fucking do it. And I
Yeah.
called him out in the middle of the room, and my lead looked at me like, "Why did you call him out? Like, he's the head person." I'm like, "I don't care who you are. There's just being an asshole and being a good person. If you have an issue with someone, talk to them. There's
Yes.
nothing wrong with it."
Yeah.
But and with criticism, if you go in being mean about it, you're immediately going to get retaliation instantly.
Mm.
That's the first thing. So go in with being like, okay, we have an issue, let's fix it, and here's how we do that.
Mm.
Um,
No, there's a right way and there's a wrong way of handling something, and
yeah,
that also Jason Stewart's VFX comment saying, "I don't know if I'll be any good." Just keep at it, keep doing, keep making art, make mistakes. If you have
yeah,
an art director who's got the time of day for you, make intentional mistakes and go to your art director and ask, why is this a bad idea? But make sure that that intentional mistake stays between the two of you in a conversation intended to be constructive. I have to stress that. Make sure that it is intended for a constructive conversation and not for a final project.
Exactly. The other thing that I've done is I'll ask my supervisor or my lead to be like, "Hey, let's have a monthly review. How am I doing?"
Mm.
And I'll just ask them straight off the bat, like, "Hey, how am I doing right now? What's something I can work on?"
Yes.
They tend to come back going like, "Oh, let me think about it and get back to you," and then they do.
And another good thing for growing is if you were to deconstruct what you're doing to the point where you need to give an answer for why. If you had to look at something and go, why am I doing this? Why is this piece using this treatment? Why is this lighting for this? Because when it comes to creating the piece, you have to be able to understand the decisions that you make. The reason why I'm reminded of this now is one of our viewers who just joined, Gonzo Donzo, when I studied, he looked at a piece I was busy doing, and he kept on asking me why. I think I was busy. I remember it clearly. It's like I was busy with a mech design, and eventually, after our discussion that day, I threw the design away. But what I took away from that was a lesson that I always appreciate: is you have to be able to answer the why.
Always, yep, 100%. I fundamentally believe that there is a reason for absolutely everything, no matter what. And part of that why is just it builds a really good eye as well to know why about things. Here, give me a second. I'm trying to think of something on this. Like, for example, right now I'm trying to think of why on this. So.
Okay, cool. So one of the comments that Gonzo Dono just made, which is a very valid comment, says, I think every artist suffers from imposter syndrome, not knowing if they are good enough and not believing they are being paid for what they love to do. It affects artists at all levels. And that is so true, especially linking to what Jason Stewart VFX said earlier, not knowing if he'll be good enough. And I think Gonzo Dono here gave the 100% good answer. Because even the seniors who I've worked with don't think they're good. There's been a couple of them, and I'm just sitting there, I'm like, dude, You just pulled off this amazing piece of artwork. How can you not feel you're good?
I think it really varies person to person. I've met some seniors who go in thinking they're the world's greatest shit. So I think it really determines on who the person is. But with it, I think it's just that being humble part. With it, yeah, just don't have ego with it. And part of the ego, I think, is understanding that it's life. You're learning. Nobody's perfect. We're human. And I think if you have a very good understanding of that, you'll get by just fine. So if you're new to this and you're trying to understand how to give feedback, take your time with it. Just be self-conscious, be self-aware, understand that other people have been in different situations than you, so you're not going to be always right about everything. This is gorgeous detail. Sorry.
Oh yes. No, I agree 100% there. That is perfect for that pit. It's just one of the comments came through, or there's a couple I'm going to read now. Raymond saying, I feel that all the time about the imposter syndrome. I can't stand people like the one you described, the know-it-alls, and then also being humble is key. And yes, that is important. Be humble. Then, yeah.
But with the being humble part, I think you got to realize that it's what I think makes a humble person is just realizing that we all have different stories. I mean, you heard my podcast yesterday.
It was enlightening to give a description. It really gave me a lot of understanding into why you spent time. Give like a good example. You gave me about 40 minutes of video of feedback on my matte painting with the pirate ship. That was a 40-minute long video, and then after listening to your podcast, I understood why you were willing to put in that much effort to help me with my journey.
It does a lot. It really, really does. But with the humility part, it's just people have different stories, people have different backgrounds. You got to be understanding. That's the same thing with the workforce. Is everyone who's in those studios? There are some. I've met a person who VFX allowed him to get out of a gang that killed and raped and murdered people. Like that was VFX allowed him to get out of being in that situation. And I'm like, damn, that's intense. Like I thought I had an intense story. Well, not anymore.
Yeah.
So it really depends on the person, but just be a little bit more understanding with it. And go in and just don't be an asshole.
Yeah.
Saying yes, please, no, thank you. May I have some help? Be doing things like that. It's just going to make working for someone and with someone that much easier.
One of the comments here as well from Alexia Rosen says, and this is about the imposter syndrome. I am constantly dealing with that. Whenever I post up work, I have constant anxiety over whether it's good enough or not to be out there, but just keep forcing myself regardless. You can only get better. And response she got from Gonzo Donna was, yes, keep pushing. That's called drive. And that's 100%. Is just keep pushing.
Yeah.
Makes me think about...
Be relentless about it.
Yes.
Be so relentless. And with it, I'm not one for posting work continuously. I only go in posting. I am a huge believer of quality over quantity. Even when you're starting out, go with quality over quantity. If it takes you 1 month of working every single day to make a painting, great. And at the end of that month, I hope it's worth it. I really, really do. And one would hope that it is.
Yeah.
So just take your time with it and keep pushing and ask feedback and be specific with asking for feedback, and you should be good to go.
I'm taking that. Be specific about asking for feedback.
I'm so big on that because you can just go like, hey, what's good about this? Well, you're going to get a ton of different answers. But if you're wanting feedback and you're wanting to go like, okay, let's grow on this and learn from this, be specific. I mean, even when I'm working on my own film right now, I've got the co-director with me has at least 15 years of experience of movie experience on top of me. And he's my co-director. And I told him, like, dude, I'm going to bombard you with questions all the time. So, like, I hope you're okay with it. And he's like, yep, absolutely. And so there's nothing wrong with not knowing enough and asking questions. And when I ask him questions, I am very specific. And part of it is I understand that people don't have a lot of time. I mean, even when I've been realizing that it's not like I have the world's mass amount of time to do stuff. So when people come to me asking for help, I tell them, like, give me a specific question so that I can answer it because I've got other things I got to do. And they tend to come back going, oh, okay. Like, yeah, sure.
Yeah. One of the questions that came through in the chat, though, Statty Citizen is asking, can you explain what the check layer is that you switch to? So the one where you have the saturation and the desaturation adjustment layers.
Sure. Let me just get this into place a little bit. Just trying to get this perspective looking right. It's not 100% accurate, but you know what? Way back in the day, they weren't that accurate, so screw it.
Some artistic liberty.
Yeah, some artistic, yeah. The check layer is I've got one that's fully desaturated. This allows me to check my black point and my white point so that this black way down here should match that black. This one that's in there needs to match in there. So I can look at that and go like, okay, there's the statue, and I need to lift up my blacks on this a little bit to match it. But that's my midpoint. So there's my black. All right. Now it should be pretty on point. So that's all that is. There we go. So now it's matching. And then I have so I have one that is for desaturating. This allows me to check my whites, my blacks, my midtones, my luminosity of the overall image. And then this one allows me to make sure that if I want this to be green, for example, I've already got my blacks and my whites matching. So now I just need to match the color. So first off, it's orange, so I'm going to go and just make it greener. There we pretty much go. Now if I turn it off, now it's pretty much matching the trees. And there we go. So that's all that really is. It just allows me to check my colors and my tones overall of things so that everything kind of stays a little cohesive. Yeah.
That is pretty awesome. I actually didn't know that. I learned something new.
And then, like, for example, the shadow in here is very blue, and it needs to be bluer in here because it's a tunnel. So there's my ring. I'm going to do a curves, and the blacks is pretty much matching. I need to lift it up a little bit. Clip it. And then it's bluer, so I'm going to bring up the blues a little bit. And I'm looking in here, not out there. because it's going in. I'm eyeballing it. For me, I'm getting better with eyeballing stuff, but you can check it with like an exposure to make sure like these colors are staying the same. Where was it? There it is. That the red one needs to come down a little bit more. Bit. Now if I turn this off, there's my color of my shadow, and now I can paint with this kind of a brush, make it bigger. I tend to do it at like 20% for stuff like this. And then I'll just start tapping. Now I've got like that depth happening. So when I put the water, let it load. There we go. So now when I put the water on top going in, it's going to match that depth of field. So that's what that is for. So I can match colors nicely. Because I still have to put water going into this, and that's why I was doing this test a little bit. When I rendered this out, I did 2 renders, one with water and one without water, because I want to be able to have that control. Yeah.
That's actually pretty cool.
And then with it, I can look at this and be like, oh, this has a little bit too much red in here. And that was bottom one, and it was this image. So let's change this a little bit. There we go. So I was trying to make it look like there was a structure within the rock. There we go. So now if I bring this all the way up, exposure off, put my saturation on, that should be pretty well matching. Now, I hope that helps.
Static Citizen says, cool, thanks, yeah. Raymond Minar, he's got 2 comments. One is a question of how big are the canvas sizes for matte painting in general? And then after this question, I'm going to double back to a comment he made on humility, which I agree with quite a bit. So let's first address the question of how big are canvas sizes for matte painting in general?
Well, I'll show you. Okay. I need that one. Okay. If you can see my screen, generally it very much depends. If you're working in a studio, your canvas is going to be matching your the resolution of the show. So if they filmed it at 2K, you're going to be doing your matte painting at 2K. If it's 4K, you're going to do it at 4K with overscan. Overscan is going to be extra area around. So if the show is 2K, let's say, I'll create it. It's always at 16-bit. I have this fancy little thing, overscan of 50%. And now I can paint my scene in here with images bleeding out. So when I reproject it in Nuke, I have all my overscan that's even on everything. So no matter how the camera moves, it'll be dynamic enough with it. So generally with movies, this black box is going to be the resolution of the show. And then you have your overscan, but when you're freelancing, there's a little bit of a difference. When you're freelancing, you double the resolution. So if their show is 2K, you work in 4K to give them the full resolution of whatever they need. That's the way I generally do it. And then in Photoshop, I have my own presets for everything, just because it saves me time. I don't have to go in and manually do it each time. So work smarter, not harder.
Cool. And then the other comment you made about being humility, it says it shoots both ways. Sometimes you have to put the boot down, but it needs to be handled like a pro. So you attack problems, not people. Be diplomatic and open-minded, firm when it needs to be, but never out of anger. And that is 100%. Be humble, but also understand that sometimes you have to speak up.
Yeah, exactly. Life ain't perfect. Just giving me what I want.
So
Okay,
we've got quite a couple of people in the chat here. So anyone in the chat who have any questions or so, I think, Ian, we've been going for almost 2.5 hours now. We're on about 2 hours 20 minutes. So I think let's open the floor for questions for about 10 minutes, and then we end off the stream. Is that okay with you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Okay, cool.
that works.
Okay, cool. So
you have a website for these streams, right?
I'm streaming on Twitch. I'm going to save it to my Twitch channel afterwards. Okay. And then I'm going to let it live here for a bit.
Because I was thinking of if once I finish this, just to give the PSD out.
Yeah. Yeah. That'll be cool. Yeah. So if anyone has any questions for the next 10 minutes, we're going to be taking questions for Ian. And then feel free to drop them in the chat. I'll read them to Ian. And
hey, that was cool.
It's really, you can ask any questions you have.
Yeah.
We'll be happy to answer.
Yeah, go for it. Ask away.
Raymond says, I'd love to see that. Might have to do some matte painting in the near future. I would love to see what Raymond pulls out of matte painting, because I remember seeing his concept art painting for the nights in the canyon. It's like, this guy's going to pull out something amazing.
Having a concept background like that, where you can freehand paint, is definitely going to serve you well with matte painting. It's going to do nothing but good for you. So yeah, get on top of it, man. Get after it.
I should really have recorded this stream as well, because I'm streaming to Twitch, and then I'm just gonna highlight the video, and then it will live there as a saved video. I should have recorded it as well, but I'll just download it from Twitch and then put it onto YouTube and share the link on Facebook as well. Let's see if there's any questions in the chat I might have missed.
I like that. That was on soft light. Okay.
So the only thing that I can pick up here, which I want to add a comment to, is Jason Stewart VFX comments about not knowing if he'll be any good, and then what Donovan also added to that. The only way I found to address imposter syndrome is to just ignore it, keep pushing, keep trying to do better, and think of, oh, cool. Okay, so yeah, keep pushing to do better, and just rather focus on finishing pieces and learning rather than trying to get something perfect. Because as you make more things, you make more mistakes, you learn from them, you get better, and then eventually you don't feel like an imposter because you're knowledgeable about what you're talking about through the mistakes you've learned from.
Exactly. And just give it time. That's all I can really say with it. Just give it time, be humble with it, work hard, and you should be good to go.
And Jason Stewart VFX asked here, I have a software question. I did Nuke and Maya and Photoshop in school and still have lots to learn. Does a matte painter need Clarice or other software to get work?
All that really depends on what kind of studio you want to aim for. If it's, let's say, like ILM, yeah, you're going to need to know Clarice because I know they use a lot of Clarice. But if you're trying to go for, let's say, like MPC, no, you just need to know Nuke, Maya, and Photoshop. So that falls kind of into the area of, it really depends on the studio and what studio you want to go work for. Yeah. But fundamentally, the main three programs is just Photoshop, Nuke, and Maya. That's going to get you a majority of the studios.
I remember when I was setting an animation masterclass with one of DreamWorks animators, they were telling us about the in-house animation software used, how they basically animate as if they're sculpting. So they click once; they don't have to do 2 or 3 clicks to do one motion. So if they want to lift the eyebrow of the model, they literally click on the eyebrow and drag it up. So it's as if they you just manipulate the mesh, and it's a software they developed in-house, which is quite cool, and that saved them a lot of time.
Yeah.
You won't work on that software unless you go work at that studio. So sometimes also I would add, don't worry too much about knowing all the software, but because the software is a tool, but do worry about knowing the skill.
Exactly. That's more it than anything. It's just just get the skills down, and you should be good to go. Just getting there. I mean, this is very rough, but yeah, within a short time, that looks pretty decent, I would say.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. Jason Stewart VFX replies, "Great, thanks. It's hard to get to the creative part if you spend all day trying to learn software."
Yeah,
it is a struggle. A lot of artists, myself included, will tell you sometimes we feel we can cut ourselves into 4 or 5 pieces: one to study, one to be creative, and 3 other parts to go do the other stuff around the house that we normally need to get done, like make food.
yeah. I tend to have my own routine for the week. So, like, for me, Saturdays is clean the house and clean the house, do the dishes, do laundry, that kind of stuff, and just kind of break up your routine that way. It might make life a little easier for you. Yeah.
A piece of advice I got recently, because so I was chatting to someone about the way the environment is changing right now with remote work and freelancing being on the uprise. And the advice they gave me was, treat your freelance like a job. Dedicate an area in your house to be an office and set a schedule. Exactly like you said now. Set the schedule. And that'll help you manage everything you want to get done. So say, for example, Mondays you set aside for tutorials on, and then you choose, is it software or is it creativity? And then you do those tutorials on a Monday, and Tuesdays is something else, Wednesdays is something else. But what's important is to set aside days for relaxing. Don't go into the whole thing thinking that now that you don't have a 9 to 5 of Monday to Friday, you can spend your Saturdays and Sundays as well doing more work. Preserve your Saturdays and Sundays for rest, even if you're working as a freelancer, if you can, or preserve days of rest so that you can unplug and recharge, because you're going to burn out if you don't take care of your health.
There's that, yeah. The only other thing I can really think of is when I do my work, I like applying the programs to a project. So like for this example, I'm still very new to Megascans, Quixel, doing the 3D aspect of it. So I'm going, okay, I want to make a project that I enjoy that still incorporates map painting. So I'm going, okay, I need to learn how to do this kind of environment work. So I'm going, all right, let's make a piece that is still achievable, but yet you still have a learning curve, and then also give yourself a challenge with it. So for me, it's going, okay, Megascans, that shit's very easy to learn. You just open it and you import. There you go. That's it. So like for these objects in here and these two, that's what that was. Now I know the process, and it was very simple to do. Then I went, okay, I want to learn how to do modeling and UVing because it is an important part to learn. So I'm going, okay, I want this tunnel thing. I obviously have to model it myself. So I kept it very basic, very, very simple, easy to figure out. Nothing going like, oh man, this is going to break my brain for a month. So just keeping it very simple. And then incorporating the lighting and the rendering and the texture so I can understand that stuff. Just break it down for yourself. Don't go, okay, I need to devote 3 months just to learn the program with no end result. Give yourself an end result while learning and make it fun, because it makes it that much more interesting to do. Then you're not sitting there going, oh, fuck, like, I got to learn this, otherwise I'm never going to get a job. And then if you do that, then you don't have a portfolio piece and you're stuck going, well, crap, what do I do? And with this time, that's what I was saying, like, go in, build a portfolio while you're learning how to do this kind of stuff. You'll give yourself something fun to do and apply it with something to do, if that makes sense.
It links to the comment that came through from Raymond Benar. Get good at one specific thing first, then start doing freelance there, and then start learning more skills.
Yeah.
Very much that. So yeah. I mean,
yeah, that's pretty much it. The also with like map painting, I hope you're all right with us going on, but
yeah, no, cool, go for it.
It's map painting for freelance. You get way more say. You're not obliged to this. You're not confined to the studio, like whatsoever. You get way more say with how you do the work. As long as you deliver, you're pretty well set to go. Yeah. This is getting there.
That is actually looking pretty cool. It's like, hey.
And I'm really liking 3D as well, because I can get very much more dynamic with my images. When you're just 2D, you're much more confined. So with like this, one of my goals is I had a senior map painter tell me, like, you need to start working with more diverse perspectives. I'm going like, you know what, you're right, I do. Because I tend to have very big lock-off shots. That's awesome. Okay.
That is working beautifully.
So you just kind of have to be smart with it and go like, okay, I'm going to give myself a program and I'm going to give myself a challenge with that program, so that you're not only learning, you're having fun, you're growing, and you're expanding your skills, and you have a portfolio piece. Yeah, that's exactly it, I think.
And then also coming back to quality over quantity, rather have a few high quality pieces or one high quality piece rather than a large quantity of low quality pieces, because if you have one high quality piece that's finished, it also shows that you have the drive to finish something and see it through to the end. And especially in the visual effects industry, when you have long hours, being resilient to that time frame of work where you're sitting in front of your computer for so long working on a piece, to have
Exactly.
to have the ability to see it through will help you immensely.
Yes. Um, like, and with it, just studios want to see that. They want to be able to look at someone and go, are they paying attention to quality, especially those seniors? Because that's what matters with it. So like with this, I literally have a folder of everything, different types of textures, perspectives. I have my characters. I found this image and I love the fog, and I'm like, oh, it's kind of got kind of that feeling that I've already got. So um, to have that atmospheric haze on top of it.
Mm.
So it's all about just being clever with how you're painting it.
Another question came through is how does Unreal in production, like in Mandalorian, especially with COVID-19, affect matte painting moving forward? I'm assuming there will be a
It's gonna
boom.
put us out of a job. I saw that and I was like, well, shit, we're done for a job. That's it. Find a new career. But at the same time, I don't think matte painting will ever go away. As much as I think more and more matte painting is going to come back, I think, because everyone wants everything to be quicker and faster, which is good, but there's going to be a situation when companies are going to go back to like, well, we need to be smarter with how we're producing films. So it's really hard to say because it really really depends. Seeing Mandalorian was freaking it was beautiful. It's just there's no one right answer really, honestly. It was impressive what happened and what they did, but that's a tricky one.
Then he followed up with another question. Doesn't it mean that every show will then need matte paintings if they don't go on location anymore?
Yeah,
Basically.
I think they'll always need matte painting. I mean, even with compositors, they do matte paintings as well.
I think, even if you look at a film like Mad Max Fury Road, where I remember reading that with that film, visual effects was used, but it wasn't depended upon like a crutch. Even in a film like that, where they relied a lot on special effects for realism and stuff, matte painting was still a big thing in that film. So I would say matte painting is going to be around for a good long time. It might be the application that changes of how matte painting is applied, but
I think it'll stay on for a long time. I don't necessarily think it's just gonna just get up and disappear. Even with even with Unreal and everything happening, I don't see it becoming just Unreal and that's it. I think that's I don't know. It's a tricky question, man.
I think a good answer to that actually came through in the comments with Raymond saying good artistry will never go out of business, and that is true. So that also links to what we were saying earlier. Unreal is a tool. it's a mechanism for applying a skill. So it's going to have its life, it's going to have its glory days, and then
Yeah.
something else is going to come along, and then everyone who's using Unreal at that time will either switch over or they'll just adjust and evolve to the new environment. So it's going
Yeah.
to be the same as with matte painting. It's in a stage right now where it is applied in a way, but it will evolve and change.
Yeah, well, it'll take time, but it's not going to happen like tomorrow. It's going to take time.
Yeah.
Um, I think.
Yeah, it's a good
Yeah.
comment now from Raymond as well. Unreal don't know shit about composition, so there will be a need for an artist. Like the software won't be able to composite for you. You will need a
Yeah.
driver to drive that software.
Always. You'll always need a driver, no matter what. And things are getting easier and easier, thankfully, but it's still a little frightening, though,
Yeah.
of how easy things are getting, because it's, you have so many people who want to get in visual effects, and the demand and the quality is only getting intense every single year.
Yeah.
And that's when I think, like, for me, I love being a specialist. I personally think that companies are going to be more and more, we're going to get a lot more smaller companies becoming more specialized rather than big, massive companies that can do everything. I mean, it's still good to have those, but I think more specialized companies are going to start booming up in the next few years. But yeah, I mean, it's not a perfect image, but there's a lot. I'll spend the rest of the weekend getting this done.
I like this, dude. If I had to look at this now, then I would say this is exactly like what you're trying to tell me is happening in the scene is there. I can see exactly what you're trying to portray. And you did this in like just under 3 hours, which is bloody fast. It would take me about 8 or 9 hours to reach this point.
A lot of this stuff is so much step and repeat. I mean, this is why I love. Here's another. The question that someone had about roofs is, I literally have the water over that material, and now we have from the plate back on top. Now we feel like it's underneath the water. So, that's why I also rendered out a water render, because now I get those reflections on top.
I remember you flipped between the scenes earlier. I'm laughing now. Raymond commenting, "Great work. Now we just need a Persian and Leonidas."
Yes, right here, just kick them in. Exactly.
Yeah,
that's literally all we need.
I think on that note, we can say this is Sparta to the stream.
Yes. Exactly. Yes.
It's a apt ending to the stream. Ian, thank you so much for your time, and much appreciated that you were willing to share some of your wisdom, and that you actually shared a lot of great knowledge and wisdom with us. Anyone in the stream, if you would like to reach out to any of myself or Ian, or would like to learn more about matte painting, if you scroll up to the start of the chat box, I linked 2 links, one for the Matte Paint Facebook group and one for mattepaint.com. So you'll see here what Ian has up on his screen is a gallery of high quality source material images for matte painting. So there are memberships available to the mattepaint.com, and also that includes the Matte Paint Academy access, which will mean you get access to mentorship. And Ian himself is a mentor on this platform, so you can even have Ian giving you feedback on your pieces, and then also you can learn and grow like that. So I would highly recommend you go check out that website, check out the Facebook group. They even have a Discord server as well.
Yeah.
You'll find links to the Discord servers
Yeah.
throughout the entire
Yeah.
Facebook group, but also, so yeah, go have a look. If you do want to get into matte painting, give it a bash. You've got nothing to
Yeah.
lose, and you've got everything to gain from it. And
it's fun to do. You get to I think it puts you on a little bit of a different level to do work kind of like what Dylan Cole or Stephen Messing or Mike Johnson, Nick Hyatt. I mean, the list goes on and on of what you can do with it.
Yeah,
there's just a lot of potential with it.
So yeah,
yeah. Well, I hope that helps everyone. Just if you have questions, yeah, feel free to reach out and ask. I love questions. I'm no fucking genius or anything, but if you have questions, yeah, I'm happy to help and to give you based on what I've learned. And yeah, thank you, Neal. I appreciate this a lot.
Thank you. And then with that, cheers, guys. Stay safe, and if you go outside, wear a mask. Cheers, guys.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.